Hey everyone, welcome back to Teen TV Deep Dive. I'm your host Alyssa, and here on this podcast we talk about all things teen TV. Last episode we talked about the first movie in the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. This time we're going to be talking about the sequel to it called To All the Boys P.S. I Still Love You. In this episode, I wanted to just talk about the premise of the second movie, as well as some development that we've seen from the first one and to now, and just more about the characters in detail. So, P.S. I Still Love You takes place just immediately after the first movie, and Lara Jean is officially a girlfriend. She's in a committed relationship with Peter. Things are going really well. They really enjoy spending time together, but things take a turn when someone else has responded to one of the love letters that she sent. In the last movie, she sent out 5. In total, we knew that, but only 3 had responded. Now, in this movie, kind of focuses on when John Ambrose from middle school writes back to her. And basically, John Ambrose, they're pretty kindred spirits. He was someone that she really liked and she spent a lot of time with when she was in middle school. They loved to read. They were both pretty introverted. And when everyone else wanted to be cool and follow the trends, they were kind of being themselves and marched to the beat of their own drums. But now, as you can see that how similar they are, Lara Jean's spending time with him, and Peter isn't so happy with that. So their relationship also kind of takes some twists and turns. Now that you know the premise of the second movie, I want us to talk about just some of the things that have kind of conspired in this movie. First, I wanted to note the friendship between Lara Jean and Lucas. He was one of the people who had got a letter in the first movie. Turns out he was gay. But now they've had this really cool friendship that sparked from it. And I thought that was nice to see because while it could have been like awkward and embarrassing and he could have been mean to her about him getting the letter but him like obviously not liking girls, could have been mean and embarrassing, but it turned into a really cool friendship. And in this movie, we see that Lara Jean's best friend Chris has a potential love interest of her own. She's been flirting on and off with this boy named Trevor. He was a part of like their middle school friend group, and he's on the lacrosse team with Peter. But they're polar opposites. You wouldn't really expect, looking at the both of them, Chris and Trevor, that they would be into each other. But they just work. I don't know how, but they do. They just work. And Kitty has kind of turned into a matchmaker. Now that she's a little older, she feels like Lara Jean and Peter are one of her best past clients, and they can have like a 5-star review with her matchmaking skills. So now she's determined to try and set up other people, and she does this by setting up their dad Dan with their neighbor Mrs. Rothschild. And I think they were a pretty cute couple. Um, I do find it interesting how the girls were never sad that their dad was dating because, of course, their mom had died in the past and he had been single for a really long time. But no one seemed to be opposed to him finding love, which I thought was really cool. But something else that I wish they had went into deeper was him moving on from his past spouse to now like a newer relationship, because it can be pretty hard, but they didn't really explore it that much from his point of view, because I understand it's more adult and he's like the parent, so it wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense for in a young adult movie to talk about the parents' struggles that much, but I would have been interested to see it. So now that you know kind of the new things that have been conspiring in this movie, we can talk about each character. Of course, starting off with Lara Jean, I think she was put in a hard spot in this movie, definitely, because she's new to just dating and being in a relationship in general, but also she wasn't used to having that much attention before. So it was pretty difficult for her. But I think one of the struggles that she had faced this movie is something that she put on herself. She put a lot of emphasis on being a girlfriend, It was kind of cute at first, but in the opening scene, Peter and Lara Jean are at this fancy dinner. They're on their first official date. And she was like, I've never been a girlfriend before. I hope I'm good at being one. And I think she assumed that part of being in a relationship was that you would have to assume the role into boyfriend and girlfriend, but it's not necessarily the case. She could have just been herself, of course, because that's what Peter likes about her is her being Lara Jean. But instead, she took it as she had to conform to someone, and I think that's what pushed her away from Peter. And just her constant overthinking. Um, in the movie, she kind of has this monologue overarching like the whole entire movie, and you can tell that she just is constantly in her head. She worries about what other people think about her and Peter being together. She worries about Jen and him haunting and her haunting their relationship. And she worries about what John Ambrose is thinking about her and what the two guys wonder about her spending time with the other one. And it's just so much. It's sometimes stressful for me too, just being a viewer. But just the amount of thinking too deeply into each situation, I think added an unnecessary amount of stress onto her. And my girl was low key sketched this season for withholding the information. I wouldn't say that she actually like lied, but she was withholding a lot of information. She didn't want to tell Peter that John Ambrose had wrote her back. She, for the longest time, like she kept those lips sealed to John Ambrose about her actually being in a relationship with Peter until Peter was the one who had to say something to John about them being together. Like, girl, she was stressful this movie, but I still love her though. Moving on to Peter, he still was the blueprint, honestly. Just still being perfect movie boyfriend material. And this movie, we got to see a little bit of a bad side to him. It was the jealousy. He was super jealous this whole entire movie of Lara Jean spending so much time with John Ambrose. But he wasn't really completely wrong with it. At first, I think he was just jealous just to be jealous, but it was all the little things I was noticing when they had that pizza party. Um, Lara Jean made John Ambrose his favorite cupcakes instead of making Peter his favorite. Or when they would just spend all that time together at the retirement home or old people's home, I don't know what it's called, but they would spend all that time volunteering together. And I can definitely understand where he got his jealousy from, and especially after being in the room with the two of them together, how John Ambrose was putting all the vibes out there. And Peter, while he isn't known for being super book smart, he's not dumb. He could tell that Lara Jean had to be doing something in order for John Ambrose to feel that bold to put those vibes that he had out there, like out there. And with Peter this movie, while I didn't enjoy him being jealous because he definitely had his own situation going on with Jen and just not being able to fully put that relationship in the past, he was being jealous and it was kind of ugly. But also, I do understand where he was coming from in the sense of seeing Lara Jean and how she was acting around John Ambrose. Like I would have had a problem with that too. Moving on to John Ambrose, he was very sweet and I liked him a lot. He was an old soul. He was into music. He was still trying to do something with politics, but he was really smart, well informed, good guy all around. And he wasn't a bad option because while in this movie they were going through all the rigmarole in their relationship, I still wanted Lara Jean and Peter to find their way back to each other by the end of the movie. But I wouldn't say that John Ambrose was a bad option. He just wasn't Peter. We were all so attached to Peter from the first movie and just seeing that their roller coaster to becoming an official couple that I think everyone still wanted to push for Peter so much. But John Ambrose was a very solid option. But something that I don't recall what happened in the second book, I would have to reread it. But I don't think that we ever get to see John Ambrose have his own relationship interest and like his own love interest that would actually like him for him. So I would have wanted to see that in the movie because he deserves it. He was a really good guy. Now this movie, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jen. Um this movie we got to see Jen and Lara Jean have a breakthrough. They have been beefing for the longest time. And honestly on Lara Jean's part, it was really understandable. She was so mean to her and for no good reason. They were really close friends in middle school. Then, for some reason, Jen just dropped her and decided to hate her for every day after that. But this season, Jen had not this season. I'm so used to talking about TV shows. But this movie, Jen is struggling with some familial problems. And when Lara Jean kind of connects with her, they have this breakthrough and the beef is over with. And I low key enjoyed it. While I definitely did not like Jen a single bit in the first movie, I liked seeing her apologize to Lara Jean and them kind of have a friendship that could come out of it. Now for the final verdict, because this movie was a love triangle, and you guys know I love to throw out my opinion for who I would choose in the love triangle. I'm still really torn. But my final verdict that I would say would be Lara Jean and John Ambrose in real life. If this is a real life couple and Lara Jean was my friend and she'd be like, who should I choose? I would say choose John Ambrose. They really clicked and their connection didn't feel forced at all. Cause they did. In the time span in this movie, they got really close really fast. They didn't really have a actual trope that movies are often set up on, like fake dating or forced proximity or enemy celebrities. They didn't really have any of that. They were just two people with really compatible personalities. So if it was IRL, Lara Jean and John Ambrose all the way. But because it's a movie and just movie magic, unrealistic expectations, and all of the trope setups and storylines just kind of being set up to favor a specific couple and a specific outcome, I would choose Lara Jean and Peter 100%. They were just so cute, and when you had that, I don't know, connection to them seeing them in the first movie to in the second one, you just want to root for them because you've seen more of them together. So yeah, I would say that Lara Jean and Peter should have ended up together in the movie, and I'm glad they did. Yeah, that's everything I wanted to talk about for today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts about this episode or maybe even the P.S. I Still Love You movie in general. Be sure to follow me on all my other social medias on Instagram and Facebook at Teen TV Deep Dive Podcast for more. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.